Well, what can I say? I did it again. I purchased another car. 1985 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. Does not run, but seems to be in pretty decent shape. It's been sitting for about a year. You can see some rust starting to bubble through the paint here. But for Iowa, this thing's super clean for this age. Lots of little things to fix on it. I obviously didn't need another 3rd gen F body because there's 2 of them sitting right there. But we're gonna do something fun with it. Interior has seen better days. Carpet's pretty shot, seats are shot, headliner's missing, mirrors all distorted. I guess half the carpet back here is missing. So definitely a project car. We'll have to see why it doesn't run. Here's my 85 Trans Am. Picked this one up as a non-running car. They had been broken for about a year. They tried putting a starter into it and the car would never have started after that. Just got it here, opened up the hood and kind of looking over things. I'm seeing the wiring isn't great. They got a Scotch lock on, like, the fusible link wire is melted here. There's some household wiring. I don't know what that runs to, but that's yeah, new AC compressor. But as you can see from the belt, I don't know if it's the wrong one or if they put this bracket on wrong or what the deal is, but it's really crooked. Doesn't line up with the power steering down there either, so I'm not sure. I might have to look at that and see what's going on there. It's like they put the wrong compressor on it. Which it's not hooked up either, so it looks like a new compressor, but maybe it doesn't work. We got, well, I did hook up the booster pack to that wiring mess over there and nothing happened. There's nothing at the key, there's no lights, there's nothing. So he had said that when he put the starter in, he thought he was missing a wire. And I was looking down at the starter and I could see the terminal that's marked R and not the S didn't have a wire on it. So I was thinking it was, you know, the GM with the 2 small posts and the 1 big post, and he thought he was missing one of the small wires. But what I actually have discovered is he was missing the main battery cable is not connected. So the feed wire to go into the car with the fusible links is on the starter, but the main battery cable that runs over to the battery, which obviously there's no battery in here right now, didn't get put on to the big lug of the starter. So I'm gonna get down in there with an extension and see if I can't get that nut off and stick that on there before I do anything with this car. Because if I can start it and not have to push it off the trailer, it'll make it easier. Okay, so I was able to get that cable on that lug. I'm gonna hook the battery up here, see if we get any sparks. I can tell for sure the wiring that's going to it is going to need to be addressed, so I'm going to be taking the wiring back off once I get it off the trailer here. But okay, nothing sparked. I don't know what that wire is. I'm going to assume I don't need it. We have a dome light, so we have a floor light, we have no ignition. So we've gone from no power to some power. What does that green wire do? Maybe that green wire is what they replaced the fusible link with when it melted to make sure it wouldn't melt again. Let me hook this up, and then I'm pretty sure we didn't have dome light before. I thought I didn't have anything. And no, we still got nothing. All right, well, Didn't actually expect it to be that simple. I figured there was something going to be wrong. And judging from the fact that this has been melted here, this is, I don't know where the feed off of this wire went, unless it's been tied in with this fuse, and this is what they decided to do to bypass it, maybe. But I could tell with the wires that I was touching down there, they were kind of crumbly, and they didn't seem like they were connected all that great. However, I did spot another little problem here. Intake manifolds leaking antifreeze. So that's not necessarily a fun thing, because these intakes aren't really easy to get off. I'm trying to think where that power goes when it comes off that harness. I can't remember exactly which way it runs. I think it feeds yeah, I'm gonna have to get it up in the air. I'm not gonna be able to fix it on the trailer, so maybe I'll roll it halfway off the trailer and stop it and get underneath it and look at that starter. Just kind of give me an idea what's going on with it, but I'm guessing there's more wires that are either burned up or messed up down there. And the story was, she was driving it, she pulled it home and went to start it, and it wouldn't start again. So, well, that's an O2 sensor unplugged, isn't it? I saw this purple wire and I wondered what it was. That's an O2. So, oxygen sensor's disconnected. Yeah, we'll have to fix that. We got a lot of little things I'm sure we have to work on. So, I'm sure it will run. Probably just not today, so. Well, curiosity kind of got the best of me, and I wanted to know what was actually wrong with it, even though after I thought I hooked up the starter wire, it wouldn't do anything. I put it up on jack stands while it's still on the trailer, because I have no other place to work on it right now, and I really want to know what's wrong. So we're gonna climb underneath there and take a look at this starter and see why we have no power. Okay, climbing under here. This is, I could feel some stuff was going on with the wiring. I don't know how loud that's gonna be. Oh yeah, look at that. I can see a bunch of fusible link stuff burned up in there. And there's no wire connected to the it looks right there. It looks like all the main power feed wiring melted or something. Okay, so how this wiring works is, you can see there's a fusible link here that's been burned up, and I believe somebody used this scotch locked type deal to go around it with a fuse. I don't know exactly what that powers or what that's for, but kind of the same deal like this fusible link. Power goes to the starter, and then from the starter it goes into the wiring harness, but it's protected by these fusible links, and if you have a short out somewhere, it'll melt, which is what happened to this one. So with that, there's no power going from the starter into the actual wiring harness of the car, which runs down the back side of the engine into a metal tube, and isn't necessarily the funnest thing to get to. Trying to think if there's any way I can backfeed it power. And maybe just figure out which wires they are here. All right, so I did a little thinking, and I remembered how these are wired. These two reds should be the two feed wires that come off of the starter, and then this purple should be the actual start wire. So what I'm gonna do is tie into both of these right here with a jumper and run it straight to the battery. And as long as that works, I can cut them, and I'll put either a fusible link in directly off of the battery post, and we'll just bypass that wiring that's got to be a short in it somewhere behind the engine. And if I remember correctly, all the other power sources come after the fuse block. So these two are the direct wires that come from the starter solenoid on the big lug, and then all other power comes off of those two wires, and then the alternator feeds back to the battery through this fusible link here. And then there was this output for whatever this wiring is. Hopefully I'm right. I'm going to strip those wires back and throw a jumper in there and see if we don't have power to stuff. All right, so I went ahead and I threw a battery in it, and then I threw two connecting wires that I'm going to run up here. I'm going to use two separate ones just in case one of these is shorted out. Okay, I didn't get no sparks. What did that do for us? Anything? We got dome lights. I threw the keys on the floor. Oh, we got gauges now, I think. Yep, there's a check engine light. Oh, it cranks. So that was probably the one that's burned up, and the other one probably still has power, would be my guess, because there's two red wires running down there. One was connected, one was burned. I probably got lucky enough to get the correct one the first time with that blue wire being hooked up. Well, I'm gonna crank it. Well, actually, before I do that, I'm gonna run and get my test lead, because I want to know if I have power there or not. Because if I do, then I don't need to hook the other jumper lead up. If I don't, I probably want to. So I'm gonna find that out before I do anything. All right, so I went ahead and I grabbed my test light. I got it connected to the negative post of the battery. Now, because this blue wire's hooked to the positive post, this red wire down here has power. And I think this one is still connected to the starter, and yes, it is. My test light verifies that I have 12 volts with the key off in that wire right now. So technically this one's still good. However, I cut them both. Obviously I didn't know which one it was. I probably could have poked through them and figured that out. But my intention is to snip them off and reattach them to a different fusible link wire straight to the battery. It's gonna be way easier than trying to figure out those wires going through that metal tube where they get super hard and brittle. So we're just gonna leave the wiring the way it is in the car, and we're gonna splice them here with some new wiring, and I bet it takes care of my problem. So, does the car start? I guess that's the next question. I have power to where I should. It clicked for a second when I hit the key. Let's see what it does when I turn it over. Check engine lights on. I don't think I hear a fuel pump. Oh, I just heard it. I can hear the fuel pump. It must be only working on the oil switch. Because see how it's still got oil pressure? Yep, the fuel pump shuts off when we lose oil pressure. Oh, it's gonna run. How much gas is in it? Is it empty? Well, it says 3/4. It's gonna run. So the prime wire off the key You should get the fuel pump to prime when you first hit the key. That's not working, but it does seem to be wired off the oil pressure switch still. Let's see what this smells like. The car has been sitting for over a year, or around a year, I think she said. There's not much pressure there. I wonder if the gas gauge is stuck and this thing's out of gas. Because I did hear the fuel pump run, but I definitely do not see any large spray coming out of the fuel rail. And normally when these things build pressure, you hear the fuel pump slow down and it just sounds like it's free spinning. You know, usually you'd hear it actually build some pressure, and I don't know that it is. Oh, it wants to run. I really got a question if it's out of fuel. Oh. Oh, it runs. That's fantastic. Well, he was right about the wiring. He said there was something screwed up with it, and there was. Because her boyfriend, I believe his name was Kurt also. He said that he tried hooking up the starter, but it was missing a wire and he couldn't find it. And I'm guessing that rotted off wire, he saw that and just didn't know how to fix it, which where it's at, it's really, really difficult to actually fix. The wires sit inside of that metal tube where they're protected from the exhaust, but they still get really hot and then they get hard and brittle, and it makes it almost impossible to pull them out of the tube and actually fix them correctly down there. Which is why, like I said, I opted to do this hack job where I cut into the wiring harness over here, because I've rewired enough of these cars to clean the firewall and get rid of the wiring harness and tuck it behind the firewall that I knew where the wires came. Actually, I thought they came through over there, and then I remembered, duh, they go to the fuse box first. So coming through this bulkhead, these two wires are what actually power everything from the car, with the exception of this red wire, which runs to the alternator, and then the thick 4-gauge cable, which runs to the starter. But obviously can't leave it this way. This is not safe, but it's safe enough for me to say that I can drive it off the trailer safely. Oh, what's this? What is this? We have... now I learned why we have no fuel pressure. Here is my fuel pressure. This is gasoline. Add that to the list of things we have to do to this car, because apparently we've sprung a leak in the fuel system. It's not good. I don't know why. It's like right on the side of the gas tank. That explains why we don't have fuel pressure, because it's leaking right out of there. So it's got to be the line coming off the tank and running down it, or something like that. But the lines, I can see the hoses, they don't look bad, which I hope it's not the gas tank, because the gas tank in these things are not, well, two things: not fun to take out, and they're not cheap either. That's pretty exciting. Gives me a good idea of what I need to do to make this thing drive again. Obviously the wiring was the issue as far as getting it running. This will be an easy fix the way I have it ready to be repaired over here. I got the battery disconnected just because I do have some cut wires, and obviously there's electrical issues, so we will address all of those. The fuel leaking means that it's probably the sending unit, which because it's on top of the tank where it's leaking from, and it's only leaking when it's running. It's, now that it isn't running, there's nothing dripping out of it. Yeah, it's probably the sending unit. One of the fuel lines has got a hole in it, which is why I wasn't getting the pressure up here when I checked it. The pressure was just bleeding off on top of the tank, and then finally started to run down once we actually got it to start. Other than that, we probably have several other things that we need to address. I obviously saw some coolant on top of the intake manifold, and I think we're going to have some brake work coming up here. But this car should be able to be put back on the road again this year. I don't foresee this taking too much work. The exhaust, we'll have a little bit invested there. The fuel tank, a little bit in there. Rewiring it, and then I got to do something about the interior because it is garbage. The seats are just, they're in bad shape. So there's wires sticking through on the driver's side. We're missing a lot of the plastic. The carpet's rubbed through. Don't know how carried away I want to get with this car because obviously I don't really need it. And oh, door pins are worn out. Oh Jesus. Okay, we got door latches that have one bolt holding them in. That's an issue. I guess this door was locked. I never tried opening it until just now. So yeah, we're gonna have to find some parts. But it's pretty clean. I mean, you got rust in here. There's a little split of rust right where the seam sealer's broken, but could probably get in there and clean that up with something. And this car's pretty salvageable. There's definitely something going on under the paint here. It's all kind of bubbled up, but from a few feet away, this car looks really nice. I got it to shut tight, but I'm going to definitely have to remember there's only one bolt holding that door on. It's not really safe. All right, so I got it off the trailer here. Just kind of go through and show you what is going on with the car. Seat is really bad shape on this side. Plastic molding's missing here. Carpet's got chunks missing out of it. There's no headliner. The carpet in the rear, they cut it out because it was getting soaking wet. So they said the hatch is leaking. It kind of looks like these bolts aren't tight, and maybe the hatch slipped back because there's a gap here where the whole thing's moved back. We have pretty solid body all the way around. I mean, there's little scuffs here and there, and there's some issues. The front bumper's been fixed. There's Bondo in here, and it's kind of flaking out. And then the front's been rubbed a couple times on the ground. I noticed that the headlight wasn't bolted in on that side. This side, I think, yeah, they're both missing the bolts that go on underneath the bumper cover. The hood, the latch assembly was ripped out of it, so they went with hood pins. That works. The hood doesn't fit real good, but we get all these things kind of taken care of and go through it all. Now the question I have, because this is a Trans Am, it's obviously a more valuable car than a regular Firebird. Do I take the near pristine interior from my other Firebird, which is over here? I got a mess. I'm obviously working outside. This car only has 30,000 miles on it, and besides a little tear in the seat from the sun, obviously it's dirty, but the carpet's perfect. All of these dash pieces, the center console, that seat's almost in mint condition. I mean, I'll show you the cleaner side of the car, because I still don't know what I'm going to do with this one yet either. But this only has 28,000 original miles on it, and it's a V6, but the foam and these seats are like mint and brand new. And I have all the plastic, so I'm tempted to take and gut the interior of this car and put it in that one, and because that one would make a more fun car to cut up and modify, because it's only a V6, and this is a Trans Am, so it probably holds more value. So I have to make that decision, or just see if I can get some new front seats for this and maybe a piece of carpet. And I do have some other interior trim panels and pieces for these cars, But switching it to a black interior, the black on white, and leave the red door panels because I'm missing the door panel out of that car. Oh yeah, the driver's window doesn't work, the power seat doesn't work, the interior door handle's broken off. Yeah, there's a lot of little problems with this car. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and follow along. We'll get this car back on the road, and I'll show you what I have to do to make it ready to drive.